it's gone. All right, so I guess I'll stop coughing now that I'm actually recording.
No, get that demon out. Whatever you were doing a second ago.
My podcasting coughing.
What it sounded like.
Jesus.
I mean, I heard a growl in your house and everything.
I mean, it's really bad. I took my allergy treatment, just as we were getting on here to podcast. I've had nothing but drainage. It seems like maybe it's this area. I am right next to the air conditioning too, so maybe it's just something pumping up right next to me that's like blowing in my face.
Shit, yeah, that stuff's blowing right on your face. You need not move your section.
I was going to say rearrange it again.
Nice. No, you've done that already. But I mean, maybe you need an air purifier next to you or something.
Yeah.
You need a personal air purifier.
I do.
Just wear a mask all the time.
I do. You know what though? As we're going to get bigger and better at this whole podcasting thing, I'm going to need a soundproofing room. So I'm just going to lock off this whole section and I'll air purify just this section and it'll be nothing. You won't have any cute pictures behind me anymore though because it'll be soundproof and gray, black or gray.
Why can't you bring your pictures in and hang them behind you?
Won't they reverberate off of the noises that my coughing, my demon coughing does?
You're getting way fancy for me. I don't understand that shit. When I set my mic up yesterday and I was testing it or whatever, they were saying that they could hear the fan and stuff like that. So, even though it's 80 degrees in my house, I can't have the fan on because it might be too loud. No, it's not bothering me. I'm used to it. But I was like, shit, where am I going with this? Oh, sorry. I forgot what I was doing. Yeah, I was talking about soundproofing trying to soundproof this room, at least hang an egg crate or something. You know what an egg crate is?
Yeah.
Those ugly cushion things.
They are.
Hang that on the door. It was yeah, that'll work.
That's not a bad idea. I have
just
3 of them downstairs.
Yeah,
right. Padded room.
Yeah,
I'll get you a white jacket to wear. You might have a hard time drinking though while we're podcasting though with your arms.
That's not gonna work.
No, we'll just get you a long straw.
I should have a sweater that looks like a stray jacket. That would be really cute. I'm going to design that.
I used to have one. Remember when I was in the JC's haunted house? That was my thing. Was the straight jacket lady that screamed at people?
Yeah, put some fleece lined on that. It can be like a backwards jacket in the winter.
That's all it is.
It's a whole look.
Yeah,
so we're going to start. That's probably a terrible idea, but
it'd be hard to drive or take pictures. Just pull out your cell phone.
No, I mean you're gonna have to cheat and let the hands out.
I see, but it's the look. Gotcha.
It's the look of the jacket with the clips on the back and stuff. They put clips on the back. I guess they tie it.
Yeah, they tie it.
Clips would be painful.
Yeah, that would be a real pain in the ass to deal with. So. I came up with the idea for this podcast that I'm going to read you here shortly because I've been doing nothing but just living in murder for the past couple of weeks. The podcasts that we listen to, the Netflix
sure you
special.
Explain that, not that you've.
Oh, but I live in
murdering
because I've been murdering French fries.
I'm a serial killer,
yes.
And that's what this podcast. Wouldn't that be a fucked up podcast?
Oh, that would be a fucked up
if
podcast.
A serial killer was recording their every thoughts, and of course they didn't release it until
after they found out
he's been Ooh,
that's a good story.
I think we just gave serial killers an idea.
That sounds like a good story. That is not the story that I'm going to tell you because I'm not murdering anybody that I know of.
Good.
But I've been reading books on murder and listening to My Favorite Murder and The Staircase on Netflix. So I've just been living in this nonstop. So I was shit, I got to do Lizzie Borden.
Oh, I just thought of this the other day. Why the fuck was I thinking about this? Oh, I don't even know. But yes, it's because when we were there, because we've been there before.
Yeah.
When so the last podcast that we did, I was the point I was trying to get across, but I was rambling way too much, is that I kind of wanted to debate the idea of what was going on at the Wasika Wonder House. And did these people actually have what people would call something identity disorder. It's DID. So like disassociated, or something like that. I'm so sorry I'm fucking that up. But I was like, you know, when we go to do cases and stuff, there's a lot of time of us just sitting around, trying to fill out the space. And then we tend to ramble about like debating on what do you think really happened here? Because that's kind of like what I did with my story last week. I'm like, so this is a story, but what do you really think was fucking going on? Like, if we used common sense and what we know now, could they have had this, or could the people that have DID fucking be channeling ghosts and not know it?
Right.
You know? Like, which is it? And then so I was thinking, like when we were at Lizzie Borden, I was cleaning yesterday and I was thinking this, man, we spent like an hour in a room being like, who do you think did it? Like playing Clue with all the stuff that guy the tour guide had just told us, that was kind of some stuff that I didn't know before about like our uncle and whatnot.
Oh, that's an interesting point that you bring up, because we got EVPs during that time frame when we were sitting there trying to figure out, like, what's your take on it? What do you think happened? Or we were just kind of goofing off like, this is what I really think happened. You know, just kind of being bullshitting, you know, while we were supposed to be investigating. But I mean, like you said, there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of lull time when there's nothing happening and you think, okay, they're not paying attention to us, or we need to stir this up a little bit, either way, or we're just going to kill time and talk about it.
I think it's something about, the investigating, like, kind of attitude that we have. You're there to investigate. Yeah. And like, so we're supposed to be investigating ghosts and like the mysterious things that happen in this place. But there was also like a murder case, or like, how did the haunting happen? What's the story behind it? And then you're sitting in this space, so it just like makes you kind of, you're in their environment, so you start kind of looking around and thinking, what could it have been like? What could have happened? I don't know. For some reason, when you're in that space, you're just in that mindset of really trying to figure it out and really trying to take in their environment and put yourself in those shoes. So that's so funny that you're doing that story, and I was just thinking about it.
Well, it kind of goes along with, we were just talking about local lore too, and that absolutely had nothing to do with my mindset on doing the story. It was just because I was just like, I'm reading about murder and all this other stuff, and I could have done other places that we've been, but for whatever reason, Lizzie was the first one that came to mind. So here she is.
Let's do it.
This is it. So, God, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to edit out all the times I'm coughing.
Oh, just leave it in. Other people have allergies. Maybe they'll sympathize with you. Maybe they'll tell you something that you can do. You never know.
Moisturize your sinuses before you podcast. Check.
What? Would that be like where you stick Vicks in your nose, or how do you moisturize your
You can do that. You can do that. I do that at night.
Definitely should do that.
I have an inhaler that I got from the Portsmouth health food store, and it has like grapeseed oil in it. It stinks really bad, but it usually helps me pretty well. It usually does a trick. I should have brought that over to my desk, but I didn't. So
shame on you.
I'll take a break in a minute and get it. So on the morning of August 4th, 1892, the Borden house awoke early. I wonder if they heard seagulls like that morning that we woke up.
Yeah. And that was the coolest thing. Like, quick detour already. I'm sure we'll tell you more of our night, but this is just real quick. We had, I was there on vacation to visit you. We were supposed to go to the beach the next day.
Yeah, we were,
with our families. And so we're supposed to investigate all night, but then spend a day at the beach. So like, we've got to go to sleep at some point in time, which we typically at that point had not really done. And so we're like, we're going to investigate until this time. And then, we're going to have a couple of fucking beers, not real beer, but Angry Orchards because your allergy. And
more of my allergies.
I'm spiraling to even other stories. I apologize. We slept for like 2 fucking hours. That was it. Somehow we never went to sleep. And then we slept. We woke up right as, sorry, that's happening to me.
I'm passing it
they
on.
were making dinner downstairs. I mean, breakfast downstairs. Yeah. Sorry. But you woke up to the seagulls and, because I guess the window wasn't even cracked, but you could hear those jokers.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved that. That was so pretty. Like we woke up in a room where a woman had been brutally murdered, and I was
beautiful.
like, oh my gosh, that's so nice. what is wrong with me?
So,
okay.
On the morning of August 4th, 1892, I'm just starting over.
They're hearing seagulls. They're waking up in that lovely space.
Yeah. The maid, a respectful Irish immigrant named Bridget Sullivan, though commonly referred to as Maggie, served breakfast to Andrew and his wife, Abby. The eldest daughter, Emma, was away visiting friends, and the younger daughter, Lizzie Borden, an unmarried 32-year-old Sunday school teacher, slept in. She came downstairs after her uncle, John Morse, who had arrived unexpectedly for a visit the day before, left the house. Lizzie decided against eating breakfast, but then decided to have a coffee and a cookie. Because why the fuck not?
That sounds like my breakfast.
I know, right? Andrew decided to go for a walk around downtown Fall River, where, the family lived, and that was about 9 o'clock in the morning. While he was gone, Abby went upstairs to make the bed that Uncle John Morse had slept in the night before. She only left that room once looking for fresh pillowcases that we know of. Meanwhile,
what was the maid doing? Why wasn't she doing those things?
So I hadn't gotten to that part yet, and I've rewritten the story so many times I don't know if I'll get to it. But Bridget was told by Abby to wash the windows.
That's right. She was outside.
Yeah, but at this exact moment, she could have been puking in the backyard because she was sick to her stomach, majorly. So I'm going to speculate that at this exact moment she was puking. Meanwhile, Andrew had returned home, let in by Bridget. So this is where she was cleaning the windows. She was actually cleaning the windows right by the front door, and she heard Andrew knocking. And the reason is that it was all locked from the inside, so he couldn't get in. She tried to open the door right away and found out that the door was jammed. She cursed under her breath as she tried to open the door, and she heard Lizzie laughing at her frustration, but she didn't see Lizzie. She just heard her laughing. So
what a creep Lizzie already.
No kidding, right? She's laughing at her.
She's just Bridget.
Right. Can't do shit, right, Bridget?
I eat my cookie.
Eat my cookie and drinking my coffee. Lizzie at that time allegedly came downstairs claiming that Mrs. Borden had left the house after receiving a note saying that a friend was sick. Lizzie and Emma always referred to Abby, their stepmother, with whom they had an unfriendly relationship, as Mrs. Borden. Her father believed the story and retreated to his room. He used the back stairs to get to his room. And he only stayed there for a few minutes. He came back downstairs and settled on the sofa in the sitting room. Bridget, who was not feeling well, and that's where I would have told you that she threw up earlier, she went upstairs to rest in her room. She also used the back stairs. According to Bridget's testimony during Lizzie Borden's trial, she only woke up when she heard Lizzie screaming downstairs that her father was dead. Lizzie stated that she found her father dead, sprawled out on the couch and covered in blood, his face so badly disfigured that he was unrecognizable. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. Well, you were there. I'm just, I guess, actually talking to anybody listening to us. But if you hadn't seen the pictures, that's kind of weird because they're everywhere. I had seen this picture before I even really knew about the actual murder. When I was a kid and it was just a lullaby, a nursery rhyme. The Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her motherfuckers. Yeah. So, these pictures are everywhere. And yeah, his face is gone.
What didn't they say? He had an eye, hanging out of his face. Yeah,
she split that.
I don't think you could see that in the picture, even if you zoom in. It's still kind of hard because it's not like it was high def, photos. But isn't it fucked up how they were back then it was oh yeah, take a picture of that dead body, put it out all over everywhere. Let's make some postcards.
You're
whatever.
Right. You're right.
We don't care. We don't have any respect for anybody, so let's just do that.
Well, he wasn't really liked in the community for whatever reason. It just seems like a dad. He just seems like he's working. He's got kind of some bratty kids in the house that won't grow up and do their own thing, and he's taking care of everybody. Shit, he even has a maid. They don't have to do shit. He's got a wife who doesn't work. It's come the fuck on, cut this man some slack. I don't really know, but he wasn't that very well liked. So maybe they were just Andrew got what he had coming to him, and they just put that shit out everywhere.
Well, I remember the guy saying, so there's some people that theorize that Andrew was an ass to his daughters and wouldn't let them kind of grow up and get out. So, and then there's a lot of theories. I don't know if you're going to get to later on that, that are dirty.
Yep.
But also, I think that just the uptight businessman he was probably didn't make for like the best, because he had kind of worked his way up from being like just a regular Joe selling stuff, maybe, or whatever.
He sold caskets and furniture.
Yeah, that's right. He worked like doing that, but then he had his own like kind of furniture business or something. And then he was like,
he was a banker too.
Yeah. So he kind of came from nothing and worked his way up.
He did.
I think that might have gave him a stodgy attitude. But they also said that their neighborhood had kind of a lot of Irish immigrants had moved into the neighborhood, and you don't know if this is fact, but like he didn't want Lizzie or Emma like messing with any of the boys. So I'm sure. So it sounds like he was a dick to his Irish immigrant like neighbors.
Right.
It's not like they got treated all too well. Any Irish immigrant. So he was probably one of those fucking assholes that was like basically the racist in the neighborhood.
It does seem like it.
Everybody's like, yeah, that could have been anybody.
It does seem like that. It's funny that you bring that up because I did read a lot of the facts. Here's the story and then here's the actual fact. And that wasn't one of the things that was brought up. So,
but the tour guide guy had said that.
Yeah.
That I think
you're right.
I don't think I read that.
No, he did say that.
That like he was protective of his daughters, and there were a lot of Irish immigrants, and he wouldn't let them like hang out with any of the boys because it was like, no way are you marrying any of these guys.
That is something that he said. He did say something else though about how much money the kids were the kids Lizzie and Emma were given as like an allowance, and how that didn't buy them like many dresses. Like they were only allowed to have like 2 or 3 dresses or something at the time. These were grown ass women though. I mean, why weren't they fucking working too? 32 years old? Come on.
Well, I didn't even know that. You just said that Lizzie was working, like as a school teacher, and I think I kind of forgot that she did anything.
Yeah, she did.
I thought she was just kind of trapped in home.
I just don't know if she made a lot of money doing that, because she did a lot of like church related things, and so I don't know if they were all volunteer work, like the Sunday school teacher thing.
Yeah. Okay. So not like, well, I mean, teachers don't get paid a whole lot now.
They sure as fuck don't.
I'm sure she still needed her dad's allowance too.
Right.
But one time he did let Emma go to Europe. I don't think Lizzie for some reason went to, but I remember the guy telling us that too.
That was true.
And I was like, how'd she not come back with a husband from that?
Right.
He's like, that was a chance to get out.
Right, exactly. That was her opportunity. And I guess maybe that's why she was up in New Bedford, because she's looking to, kind of peace out and do her own thing. Gonna go back into the story here. I don't know if I said this. After the screaming, probably not. After screaming, Bridget ran and got the doctor and the neighborhood friend of Lizzie's, but the commotion had attracted the attention of the neighbors, who finally summoned the police. So at this point, lots of people had come in, seen what had happened to Andrew.
Taking their selfies.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, got it.
Lots of people were in and out.
Could have fucked with anything. Just trampled right through.
Insane.
Typical old school murder. Got
it. But at this point, Abby's whereabouts were still unknown. Lizzie Borden told the crowd that had gathered into the house now that same story that she told her father. Basically, stepmom received a note asking her to leave the house. The neighbors are all crowding around. And then she, after returning with the local doctor, his name was Seabury Bowen, Bridget checked for Abby upstairs. Yeah, they had some cool ass names.
That's a great name.
They really, the Seabury, but I mean, man, crazy.
How'd she come up with that? His mother.
I mean, seriously.
I need to know if that's a family name.
I do too. Dad's like, let's name him Charles. And she's like, nah, Seabury.
And he's like, what?
Yeah. So
she had like some Norwegian lover that she didn't stop thinking about or something.
That's what it was. Yeah. Seabury. Seabury Bowen. And he turned out to be a doctor. So, I mean, I guess not a bad name.
Good job.
For some reason, Bridget then decided to go upstairs and found Abby lying face down in a pool of her own blood. Abby had been struck in the head only 19 times, not 40. Andrew had been hit 11.
Oh, so not so bad, right?
It's not. Really.
Is she going to pull through?
I think think she had a chance. At like maybe 15, but then she just kept going. And it's interesting to me that Abby was hit more times than Andrew. Abby was hit 19 and Andrew was hit 11 times. They were able to tell that it was the same weapon. One of Andrew's eyes had been cut in half, and his nose had been completely severed from his face. They could tell that Abby was murdered first because her blood was dark and congealed, whereas Andrew's was not, by the time they got through the crowd of people that had gathered in the house. The county medical examiner, don't know what his first name is, Dr. Dolan, looked at the bodies after Seabury. Later, Dolan would have later he has the stomachs removed and tested and confirms that there was absolutely no evidence of poisoning.
Is it true that they did autopsy the bodies in the house?
Yeah.
Like in the dining room?
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Because in that dining room they have,
the gurney thing?
They have the like autopsy table, but you don't know that's not like necessarily the one they used. I think they just found that antique.
Sure, just like the couch that looks very similar to the one that Andrew was hacked up on. It's a similar.
Oh, it's eerie how like precise they were on all the furnishings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
because didn't we say like the carpet looked the same? But you know that's not the same carpet.
No, it's been renovated.
Have blood stains on it.
Oh yeah, that's that also.
I don't know. Maybe they had some really good resolve back then.
Oh shit! Well, then I need some of that. I mean, I don't have blood stains or anything on my carpet, but the cat vomit is insane. So I need that. I need that 1870s resolve.
Yeah, they probably. Well, anyway, okay.
Well, I was just gonna say, I guess back in the day, because they didn't have like an actual coroner's facility, that's why they did autopsies like in the house that they found the bodies in or something like that. I don't know what they did with the bodies afterwards. They must have had like a big ice box or something, right? Or did they just took them right into the ground or something, right? I mean, if they're going to do the whole autopsy right there in the house.
They had to take his head off. I mean, like, I don't know what they do because no way they buried him without a head. Like,
oh, but isn't that a skull that's in the glass?
Is it a real skull or is it
like a replica
model?
I don't know. I didn't do my research on that.
I just don't remember what they tell you, if it was the model that they used because they didn't take the real skull to court. They had to make a mold or something.
Oh, I'll get to that
now. I can't remember. But I think they just did the autopsies there because it was the freshest. And I don't think they had a whole lot of resources to, like, keep bodies from decaying. So, yeah, they had to go in the ground pretty quick.
Yeah, they had to go pretty quick.
I thought that if they had to keep the bodies, they just, I don't know, hoped for fucking cool weather and kept them somewhere that's cold.
Oh, shit.
Not so much necessarily on ice. But that's not true because they used to do, I think they could put the bodies on ice because they used to have like,
right.
Well, when they killed Jessie James, this is off subject, but when they killed Jessie James, they collected money to allow the public to come view his body. And so they kept him on ice, like in the house for a certain amount of time or whatever.
Wow.
Sounds gross.
I mean, it is gross, but I guess that's how they had to do it.
There wasn't a whole lot of entertainment then. That's why the whole town came through this murder house too. I mean, they didn't have horror films or, fake haunted houses or anything like that.
True.
So,
I mean, honestly, if I was in the neighborhood and people were screaming and the door was wide open and that's just the kind of neighborhood that it was, that you just knew everybody and you just, walked up into their business, I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't have gone in. I probably would have been like, gathering up all of the 40 layers of my petticoat and skirts and darted across the street, and those, like, can you see me? I mean, those shoes, like, I'm a 10, right? My shoe size is a 10. So I'd have been like, clack, 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 clack. My umbrella too.
Had shoes for you? Your umbrella? Yeah, because it's August. It's hot, man.
Right. I'd have my parasol. So I'd, and then having to go into the house to see that shit. I don't know. I feel like I would have been a cool ass old lady, so I probably would have had one of those 1800s cameras. So I wouldn't have been carrying a purse and the parasol. I would have been carrying around that camera with like the tripod and the blanket and everything. So I'm totally off subject now, but that's just.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you, I'd probably be right behind you, but I'm hiding behind your parasol.
I know.
Watch your arms. It might rip them off. Like I would peek through my fingers to like look at the body and then be like, ugh.
Could you imagine? I just couldn't imagine. I mean, and this happens all the time, as you know, with Villisca. The people were just like, let's go on in this house and see what the hell happened here. And they're like, ugh. Well, what happened in the other rooms? Ugh.
That's one I don't think I could do. I would not walk in that. When there's children involved, man, I saw that shit on TV one time when I don't know what I was watching, some news thing, and they were walking through a mortuary, like a county mortuary's office. I don't know what you call them. Coroner's office.
Yeah.
And there was this a little figure, and it was like, no, I can't. I couldn't watch it anymore. I was bawling. I'm such a fucking baby. But
well, yeah, and you would have known in Villisca because you knew that family had children too. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the whole family, they're all dead. Okay, well, negative. I'm not
negative.
Going
yeah,
there,
for sure. At first, the police did not suspect Lizzie. After all, she was a spinster from a respected and well-off family. And Lizzie swore to the DA, whose name was Hosea Knowlton, that she was in the barn looking for a piece of iron when the attacks took place. Of course. I mean,
what?
Yeah, I'm just assuming that she was feeling her craftiness was coming up. You know, she was going to be, I don't know, bolting pieces of iron together. Maybe she was going to make
because she's into welding all of
it. A spice cabinet.
What is she doing with a piece of iron?
I have no idea.
And if you do the tour of the house, the guy tells you that she was looking for fishing stuff, that she was going to go fishing.
Hey, well, I mean, I guess that could be why.
She changed her story like multiple times. They mentioned that too.
Yeah, she did.
So
she did. As a matter of fact, I think I cut that part out because it's part of the trial. I don't see it in here, so I don't think I'm going to something that I'm going to mention later. But one of the stories was that she had pigeons in the barn that she was tending to, and had originally learned that Andrew went in there like a week or two prior and had murdered her pigeons because he didn't want it bringing any children around. This was later, this was one of the theories, you know, that, well, clearly she got pissed off because he murdered her pigeons, but that's not really entirely true. They had, birds that they were keeping to like eat. Like these were they were like their slaughter birds basically, because she goes into describing how he wrung their necks. And like I actually read some of the trial commentary. And it's so weird because it's like 1800s proper. And I'm like, so what exactly does that mean? He went up to the birds and just wrung their necks? Like, come here, you little silly bird. No, they're like
a cartoon, like just
right. But then she says, but Andrew, or maybe she didn't say but Andrew, maybe she said but Dad or but Father, why does some of their heads appear to be missing? It's like, this was like, the trial commentary. And I'm just like, well, why would you even ask that question? Like you just, you see that and you just, their heads appear to be missing. Well, it's because they're dinner. That's what's for dinner.
Lizzie sounds like sometimes she just couldn't get a grip on reality.
It sounds like that.
I mean, if I was a 30-something-year-old woman, I mean, I am.
Stop it.
Edit that out. If I was living at home still with my parents, I would be fucking crazy.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So
yeah, exactly.
She just sounds like she didn't comprehend what was the reality that was going on. Like, these are her pets, and he's like, yeah, until we eat them, Lizzie.
Right,
whatever.
exactly.
You know?
She does, and some of the things that I've read, she
acts like a child.
She's very childish. That's exactly what I was going to say. She does have more of a child mentality, and she was the youngest, so maybe she was spoiled to a certain degree. That's why Emma was piecing all the time. She's like, man, fuck, Lizzie gets everything. She gets this fucking set of pet birds. We're supposed to be eating those. I mean,
I'm sure that because I think she was a little bit older than her, like 7 years or something, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't like just a couple of years.
I think you're right.
So I think she had to help kind of raise Lizzie. And so she's probably like, fuck it. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, she wasn't moving out either. Right,
you're absolutely right.
But, I mean, she's like, I'm sick of always having to take care of your ass. You're 30 years old. Like,
you're absolutely right.
Where do you think our dinner comes from, Lizzie? Get it together.
So I think she was just a little childish, but, Let's see, where was I? I was talking about her. Oh, okay. So go back to one of the things that you said. The tour guide mentioned that she was in the barn looking for like fishing supplies. That does kind of go in line with her saying that she was looking for a piece of iron because it could have been like a weight used, when you're.
Oh, yeah.
That would make sense.
So that sounds practical.
In the days after the murders, an abundance of clues that all led to dead ends confused the investigation even further. A bloody hatchet was found on the neighboring farm, but it was actually bloody because it was used to kill the chickens. Yeah. And not that one. That's what they were doing.
Do you think like all the neighbors were like, because everybody has a hatchet or whatever. Do you think they're all like hiding their hatchets? Like, oh shit, they have not found anybody or accused anybody. Everybody. I don't.
I think everyone in the neighborhood was pretty sure it was either a passerby that got lucky or it was someone in the family. I mean, for the neighbor to just have their hatchet all bloodied and laying, I mean, if I was worried about it, I would at least wash the blood off that thing, so it's not like a gleaming, here it is, the instrument of death, like it's just laying in their backyard, found by the detectives.
So they found that, but... And then I guess they questioned the whole family.
Right, and then, so a man seen wandering around the Bordens' property he's just like peeking in the windows, I don't know what the fuck this guy was doing. This motherfucker had an airtight alibi. And I think that is so funny. So Bridget, she was a suspect before the police finally zeroed in on Lizzie. So, like, everyone else was a suspect before her.
Well, yeah, blame all the poor and destitute first, right. And when it's not them, then we have it's kind
of backwards because this day and age, it's like they immediately look at
the family first,
totally backwards. So there just wasn't any physical evidence, not even a bloody scrap of clothing to implicate Lizzie. It was just at this point that nobody else could have done it. And also considering the timeline of events, it doesn't make any sense any other way. If Abby was killed early in the morning, the murderer, if it wasn't Lizzie or Bridget, would have had to have hidden in the house for several hours, basically waiting for Andrew to get there. And then he would have risked being spotted by these two ladies who they seem to be like moving around the house, just all over the place. I mean, this...
And why not kill them too then?
Exactly.
While you're there?
Bridget was washing windows, so she looked into every room. She could have missed the killer, sure, but that seems a little odd. I don't know. It seems weird. So it makes sense for them to kind of direct it towards either Lizzie or Bridget who were there. And, also, what about the note that Lizzie claimed that her stepmother got? Abby, she clearly never left the house, because she was dead. So what happened to the note?
Yeah, and does Bridget ever say that because why is Lizzie answering the door or even... Mrs. Borden was making her own bed and stuff, and I guess Bridget was out at the windows. So wouldn't that be like her job? So Bridget, they never said that Bridget knew anything about a letter a note or that Mrs. Borden had left the house. Bridget never admitted
Bridget never knew that.
She's like, I don't know. I
want to clear something up. So Bridget was actually the one that opened the door for Andrew in this story. Now, it is also told that by Lizzie that she opened the door for Andrew and not the other way around. So
Lizzie just can't keep her fucking story straight.
She can't.
Like most murderers, like that's the first red fucking flag when you're changing your story constantly. And they're so elaborate stories too. Like I'm out looking for iron, Rando. Why are you like?
But she was so that.
Oh, and I answered the door, even though you know that your maid probably answered the door. So you're like, why would you say that? Like she's gonna say no, Lizzie.
Well, I can tell you why she said that, because if she is placed at the top of those stairs that lead in front of that door, you can see directly under the bed, which would have meant she would have had a clear view of Abby laying there in a pool of blood. And I only know that from our tour. That's why the guy had you lay there and had us all walk up the stairs so we could see you clearly from the top of the stairs. So if Lizzie was in fact at the top of the stairs, like Bridget had speculated, Bridget didn't know where the laughing had come from, but later stated that she came down the stairs to greet Andrew at the front door. So
she would have walked right past it. I mean, she would have had to look, but Yeah, that was a cool thing in the tour, by the way. So
that was cool.
Also showing what a fucking weirdo I am.
Awesome.
When the guy's like, who would like to come lay down where the lady was found dead?
Wendy jumped up. Nobody else got a chance.
I get to lay right there in that spot so that he can show you where on the steps you would be able to see that at like eye level from underneath the bed, because the bed's the same style that they had then.
Crazy. So Lizzie told her friend Alice Russell that her stepmother might have just burnt that note on accident. Just burning it up. It's 70. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's July. It's warm. It's New England warm, so it's
August. Is it August?
This is July when this all went down.
Oh, I thought you said August 3rd. Is it July 3rd?
No, shit. It's August 4th. It's August 4th. I did. Can you see me scrolling? It's August 4th. Maybe I'm thinking of someone's birthday then. Shit.
I thought it was in July for some reason too, because I thought we're coming up on the anniversary of that, aren't we?
We went in July, so I think I was getting the dates confused. It was definitely August.
Oh, okay.
It was August. You're absolutely right. So it's even warmer.
No,
why is she burning shit?
But she claimed she. You don't burn.
Man,
notes.
They did.
Like you burn notes when there's secrets. Right. I mean,
secret notes.
So if Lizzie's saying maybe she burnt the note, then she's that's how pissy she is at her stepmom. Oh, maybe she had secrets and she fucking burned it. I saw her do that several times, probably. I mean, Lizzie, calm your ass down.
Eventually, investigators also discovered that the day before the murders took place, Lizzie tried to buy something called prussic acid, which is otherwise known as cyanide.
And then you could just get it from the drugstore if you had a prescription.
That's exactly right. But apparently you have to have a prescription to buy cyanide. What does cyanide do for you? What do you need it? What doctor would prescribe you cyanide? That's
what I have no clue. I mean,
what she tried.
I mean, I'm sure we could Google it and find out what they used it for back then. But these people were all fucking drug dealers and high as a kite. I mean, or the pharmacists then were basically drug dealers.
I'm going to tell you
the shit that they could sell.
No kidding.
And that wasn't Lizzie's first time asking for some shit like that. It wasn't.
No, she's tried everything, and I think that this was the final straw. She walks in, tries to get cyanide. The drug dealer behind the counter, the drugstore. He's like, "Look, Lizzie,
same thing.
This is your fifth attempt, man. Stop trying to buy drugs from us. Just get on with your life." I could just see her. She's like,
Lizzie,
fuck.
She's like a crackhead that walks through the neighborhood.
She walks next door to the hardware store. She gets a hatchet.
And then just rando, I'm going to go fishing. She is on drugs.
Here's the thing. Doesn't the hardware store sell mice poisoning and stuff like that? Or was the drugstore the only place that you could buy like that kind of stuff?
I'm assuming that the poisons that she was trying to get a hold of maybe have reactions that aren't as obvious. If you give somebody rat poisoning, they're fucking foaming at the mouth and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Not that I know.
Hey, you're right. And if they're going to do an autopsy on your fucking kitchen table, I guess you want it to not be very clear, that you were the murderer here in the situation, right?
Right. And then, if you could get cyanide just from the pharmacist, Lizzie she's probably had a story prepared already of something ridiculous. Oh, yeah, they were sick, so they were taking cyanide, those two.
They were sick, exactly.
They're into that.
That's true, because she already diverted to, because I gave it away earlier, they were being poisoned by the milk.
Yeah. Oh, I think you were going to take that out,
Not anymore. Just went right back. Keeping it. So that evening, Lizzie visited Russell. Russell said that Lizzie was worried that someone might be threatening her family. She confided that these enemies might want to hurt her family. Russell was integral in her getting convicted, or not convicted, but Alice Russell. She was the one, she told Alice about her stepmother burning the note on accident.
She's not the neighbor, right?
She is a neighbor. Not the neighbor.
Because there were several neighbors. But she was a neighbor that spent a lot of time with her and was kind of helping her somewhat.
Yeah, I think.
Or being
she
there
was a close
for
friend.
her.
Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. She tells Alice, I should just not use last names. She told Alice that she was worried someone might be threatening her father, and confided that these enemies might want to hurt her family. So now she's trying to turn it into a conspiracy theory. A few days...
Because they have enemies from their furniture
Right, exactly.
store.
The casket sales, I guess, must have been down. A few days after the murders, this is when shit gets interesting. Alice sees Lizzie burning one of her dresses at the stove in her house. When Alice asked her why she was destroying the dress, Lizzie said that it was stained and she could no longer wear it. Which, all I have to say about this is, this family fucking loved to burn shit. Like, they're just like, this is of no use to me. Burn it.
That's like the best way to get rid of like trash and stuff, you know, so that you're not polluting because they didn't have recycling systems then, you know.
Did not.
So instead of recycling that paper, you're helping by burning it, and you're getting it down to ash and yeah, so it doesn't take up so much space. They probably didn't have giant like landfills necessarily.
No,
then.
but it's interesting that she would burn a dress.
She really cares about the environment.
Right. She really cares. So one of her things in court that her very well-paid attorneys, you know, like to say was that Andrew was, you know, kind of a frugal father. You know, he only allowed his daughters to have a certain amount of money for buying dresses. And if that was the case, I don't see her just burning a dress. I see her scrubbing that shit. I mean, what kind of stain would she have had on it if it wasn't blood?
Yeah. Well, you don't know. Maybe they just left it out. But do you think that she would have went to her maid to try to get the stain out or something too? Like, hey, Maggie, I know that's not her name.
That's what they call
her. Yeah, because
I know.
So, it's still racist if you're racist against like anything.
Yeah,
right?
sure. It's
okay.
It's an intolerance.
I don't know if there's another word.
She was
for
intolerant.
It. Intolerant. They're they're assholes.
Yeah,
basically.
that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, they would have asked her like, hey, I got this stain, you know, how do you get it out or anything? So she's burning like one of two dresses or something, or shit, you don't even know if she has any dress. But Dad's dead now, so she's just gonna go get a new one.
Well, I mean, that's obviously, I mean, and in the end, that's what I think she was looking at. She's like, fuck it, I don't give a fuck if I mean, this could have been my favorite dress. I don't care. It's gone now. It's got blood on it. I mean,
no, it's got a stain on it. Remember,
Stain.
She didn't say that there was blood. But also like, so you could argue that if Lizzie was like felt like she was deprived all her life of like Dad didn't spoil me and let me have multiple dresses. I'm 35 years old. I can't take care of myself. Or she's like 32. Anyways, I'm 35. I guess I'm let some of my emotions get through.
But
here.
you're onto something. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's like, I'm not wearing this fucking tacky shit anymore. I know I'm going to be getting some bankroll soon. And so I'm just burn that. It's like a release thing for her, or whatever. She's like becoming a different person or whatever. But police had asked for her clothes too, right? Is that a true story that they were like about to check her wardrobe and then she burned it, or they just saw her burning a dress and they were like, that
this was just Alice, and Alice, her BFF kind of went and told the judge, and the judge was like, charge her. She's that's it. As far as he was concerned, she was guilty. So they charged her after finding out that she burnt those clothes. So
yeah, I mean, Lizzie had already done a whole bunch of shady shit to begin with. I don't. Why did takers? They just didn't want to. They didn't want to admit. We got to look into this.
Yeah, I think that they were really trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, basically. And until she burnt them clothes up, they were like, "Look, you told us earlier that you weren't allowed to even have that many clothes, so why are you burning them up now?" Yeah, it didn't make any sense. So, the trial of Lizzie Borden lasted 14 days. It was a media sensation. Newspaper headlines screamed, "Lizzie Borden defense opens." Reporters from Boston and New York crowded the courthouse day after day, and they called it the Great Trial. Though Lizzie never testified during the trial, she was still the star of the show. At one point, a piece of tissue paper, which covered the skull of her father, fell to the floor. Lizzie's caught sight of the bludgeoned skull and fainted. So that was actually something that I didn't know. I didn't realize that they brought the actual skull to the trial and that she fainted. So when you said that earlier, I was a little like you took the air out of my balloon there a little bit because I was like, I got something to reveal, and you're like, yeah, but didn't they have it at the trial or something? I was like, yes. It's hard doing a story that like everyone knows like bits and pieces of because there's.
Well, I got it wrong too, though. For some reason, I thought that the guy had said they didn't bring the actual skulls to trial. But then I was like, I don't know. That doesn't make sense. Why would they take his fucking head off then? Like, why go through all that trouble if you were just trying to make I don't know, a paper mache mask of it or something?
Everyone wanted to be Andrew Borden for Halloween.
Whatever they do. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't know it was the actual skull. Yeah. Man, that would be upsetting.
No shit.
Though.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Okay, so yes, you murdered him. But let's just say you let, your fucking psychopath brain get the best of you and you had a moment of clarity, you realize what you did, and then boom, you're in the, in the jury and there it is again. Do you think her fainting was real or do you think that she was acting?
I think that Lizzie is fucking insane. I think if she didn't do it, that it would catch you off guard. I mean, and isn't that what ladies did back then? They just fainted. Yeah, I know. How come that doesn't happen now?
Exactly.
Are we just like desensitized?
It's because we work real jobs all the time, and we're like, fuck.
What was wrong? What was up with their like makeup and their physical bodies and health? That they just see something and pass out.
I get it during the days where they had to wear those real tight like things across their chest when they couldn't breathe. But I don't think that was think that was going on in Lizzie's day. I think she was able to just wear like a regular dress. I don't think she had to wear that super tight thing, that girdle thing.
A corset?
Yeah, corset.
I think that they
probably did.
I mean, they
did. I mean, the dresses were still pretty.
I think they might have.
So, I mean, maybe that's why.
I think they might have still had like a looser version of a corset or whatever. And
I'm gonna start wearing a corset to work. See if I start passing out.
I don't think they were necessarily to the bra and just panties.
Oh, you're right.
I mean, like I guess they have some kind.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I have no idea that the history of women's lingerie.
You don't.
But you're right about that. If I had to get sewn into my underwear every day, I would probably pass the fuck out too. I think that she was exaggerating. I would like to think that a lot of fucking women passing out because of shocking situations were fucking faking it too. That it was like the ladylike thing to do. That you were too delicate to handle certain things. So their reaction was to, like, because also who fucking
I know. I love that
you don't make
you put your hand up to your head just like I've seen it in the movies. Like you did it exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the way they were passing out, they were all fucking making it up to see like who could be the most delicate lady to get the the badass man. That somebody to protect them kind of bullshit.
That reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean where Keira Knightley's like, I'll get their attention, and she pretends that she's gonna like fall out.
Yeah. I totally think that, but then when you see her where she can't breathe in her suit, she's like,
exactly.
Like you're doing a second ago.
My
your allergies. Imagine that's not going to get a man's attention when you're like,
I don't know, got me one.
And then you just tumble over and fall forward and fucking smack your head on the concrete or whatever. I mean, if Lizzie just like was sitting there and then she just donks her head onto the damn table and falls out of the chair, that's not. And if you think, she's been held captive all this time by protective dad. Now she's a single, she's always single, but you know what I mean? She's about to come into some money and she can do her own thing and everybody's watching her. So yeah, I think it's fake. I think it's fake for all those reasons. She's trying to make it a show because to help benefit her later down the road.
I agree. Unfortunately, presenting the skulls of the murdered Bordens actually worked in Lizzie's favor. Her lawyer.
You don't.
No, I know it was a bad. It was like if the glove fits, or if the glove don't fit, you must have quit. That's what it was.
Yeah. So like her reaction to seeing it. Oh, she must have not.
Right. How could she? She just fainted at the sight.
Because they don't even understand like how a murderer could disassociate themselves from the situation. Like, that kind of psyche doesn't exist where you can do something, you can commit a murder and then be like, what, me? I don't remember doing that, or that wasn't me. That was like, my other weird self or something.
That wasn't me.
No, they can't, their heads can't even go there. So they're like, oh, if she's really upset by this, she must
Right, exactly. The things that we know now didn't exist then. So I could see if I was sitting in the courtroom and I watched her react, that my emotions would probably overtake everything, and my heart would go out to her instead of me thinking, what a fucking lying bitch. But then I don't know, I am me, so maybe I would have been like, what a fucking lying bitch.
No, let me set you straight. You would know she was a fucking liar. You were just explaining yourself back in those times, lifting up your petticoat. I'm not even you apparently have a tripod and a camera, and you're just strutting around town that way. For one thing, you're probably going to be a Spencer too, because because I'm not sure that was going to work.
Spinster Chris.
with your hacking and your tripod and your camera going around town, and I'm just following you. So we're not far off from these people.
I love it.
But I'm certain you'd be sitting in court being like, she's a lying bitch.
I'd be taking my notes back there. God, I can't wait to podcast about this shit.
But nobody would listen to you. No, of course not. And then they would. Yeah. Probably find some way to put you in jail.
I would have been kicked out of Fall River, Massachusetts, because they loved her back then. Her lawyer reasoned that whoever caused such extreme damage would have been covered in blood after the incident, which, I mean, that is clear. That makes a lot of sense. However, Lizzie's clothes were perfectly clean, which has led some people to speculate that she actually committed the murders naked. I don't know. I disagree. I think if she burned a dress that she had some blood spatter on there, she was probably able to wipe away something that was obvious, and then maybe later saw a few spatters and was like, oh shit, but it had soaked in.
I think she just changed. Why can't we just think that she had enough time to, I mean, I know if you've got these corset dress going on, which we don't even know for sure that that's what it was, but she's got time to run upstairs and change and hide that dress and wash up. But they're right about the splattered in her hair and on her face and stuff like that. That would be kind of rough. I think so. Not only did she do this naked, but did she put a bag on her head and stuff like that? So that it didn't get into her hair, you know what I mean? She's got to cover all that up.
One of the things that I didn't mention earlier is that Uncle John, when John was there for breakfast, Morse, he got a large vat of water from downstairs, filled it up, and went back upstairs. So I never found out if he used that to kind of clean up, or if he had gotten that, left it there, and then disappeared, because I don't really remember at what point he pieced out of the house. It's everybody else leaving or not leaving. It's it's these people, but not Mr. Morris, which is another guy who's speculated as being the murderer in this whole scenario anyways. But if in fact there was blood flying everywhere, which there would be, we know that because of all the forensics fucking shows that we watch nowadays, there would have been blood going everywhere. She could have changed her clothes, but how would she have washed and dried her hair so quickly? They didn't have blow dryers back in the day. Bridget would have had to fucking fan that bitch's hair until it dried. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how she could have covered up. I mean, I could see washing your face. That would be fairly easy. They're probably too dumb to look back then, not dumb, but they didn't know to check the water basin downstairs where she washed up and stuff. Because that's where their bathroom was, right? They didn't have a bathroom where there is a bathroom now. So they had to go downstairs. It's not like they would check the drain and stuff. That's what they could do now. But, and see if there's blood. It also wouldn't prove necessarily that she did it. So if anybody could have washed up down there. But just in your hair. I mean, and I guess there's ways to have covered your hair, and then she could have burned that too. Oh no, I mean like with a scarf or a bandana or something. So they had to.
I agree with you that she could have, but I don't think that in the heat of the moment she would have. I think that she somehow managed to get that shit out of her hair, or maybe she put a fucking bonnet on after the fact. Maybe she put a hat on.
Yeah.
When everyone showed up, or she, when she left to go and get help. That's maybe when she put it on and covered that shit up, and then later on she took it off and, cleaned her hair or something. That's what I think. I don't think she did that shit naked. I think that that's too premeditated, and I don't feel that with this case. I think it was in the heat of the moment.
Oh, no. I think that that's somebody trying to sex up the story by saying she's naked. I'm not going to do anything naked. Definitely not.
No doubt. No doubt.
I'm not walking around the house naked with a hatchet in my hand. What if I accidentally just just move my hand the wrong way and cut myself?
Oh, shit. And there's like 1,000 windows, by the way. They're all just washed. So,
no. And Bridget's running around in there. Mm-hmm. Nah, man. Like, what if somebody came in the house unexpectedly and I'd be like all embarrassed? Oh, no. She's a special kind of crazy if she was naked, but I think that's somebody trying to make the story more juicy. I think she wouldn't have burned that dress if she didn't have to.
Juicy and trying to give an explanation as to why there was no blood found on her at the time. But I think there's other ways, like you said. I think there's other ways that it could have been.
I think, not to mention, it probably would have took longer to bathe your whole body than it would just to rip off a dress, hide it, and go put a new dress on.
Yeah, like the one she burnt. So. If she burnt a dress that had a quote-unquote stain on it, most likely the shit
she had another dress on.
It was probably fucking ruined. This dress was probably ruined. Oh, there's just a slight stain entirely covering the whole dress.
But I would like to know how she get that blood out of her hair, because I can't even eat like peanut butter without getting peanut butter in my hair. So. Oh, I have to pull back my hair. Oh, maybe she pulled back my hair, I guess.
Look, she wears it back. She does wear it pulled back most of the time. She never has it down. It's always pulled back.
Well, that would make it easier, I guess. I don't know what she's up to, but
okay.
So they see her faint, and it was at the final thing. Like, they saw her faint and react, and they were like, oh, let her go. She's fine.
I have some more. Here, I'll try and let's get through this. The defense was able to produce witnesses who saw Lizzie leaving the barn at the time of the murders, or who also claimed to see characters lurking about the property. Enough at least to create a reasonable doubt for Lizzie's guilt. The defense was able to have the drugstore clerk's testimony that Lizzie tried to buy poison dismissed on the basis that it was irrelevant and prejudicial.
I guess it is irrelevant, though, because that's not how they
That's very right.
That plan didn't work, so
it didn't. But I disagree, because I feel like it indicates her in a way that she was trying to get rid of him. But that's just I agree. It really, it's not how they died, but it does look like she was trying to buy poison for a reason.
Oh, I was.
No, I know,
joking.
but that's why. But that's what you're right.
That was like the stupidity of them. But does it matter that she was trying to buy poison? Because would you I couldn't get my poison, so I'm just gonna hack their heads off.
That's what she did.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to murder somebody, I think you would come up with a plan B.
She's just dumb. So. She's like, fuck, this poison thing ain't gonna work. I was trying to make things easy, but I guess I'll just hack them up.
So obvious.
She was
the worst lies. Right. But what is these people lurking around the property that the neighbors are seeing?
So weird.
And they're like, oh yeah, no, I totally saw a weirdo lurking around. Didn't alert the police. Didn't watch them. Didn't think about it.
It was Clambake day, so all the police were gone anyways.
That's right. Yeah, there was like a whole event. They probably had to get to the Clambake, so they were like, I saw some weirdo lurking around, but I was late.
Look, the story about the creepy people lurking about is very strange, because when I read I guess like the testimony from Bridget, they were very nuts about making sure that the doors were locked at all times. Like, they're always talking about the doors getting locked. And this is like the 1800s. This is like when that wasn't a thing. Like, nobody did that. Even when Andrew got to the house and he pulls out his key and he couldn't get in, he was like, Bridget says that she heard him trying to push the door, and then once he started knocking, she decided to open up the door and let him in. But at first, she heard someone trying to push the door open. You know, she had to pause for a second, like, what the fuck is happening? Which it would be anybody's knee-jerk reaction. But this was 18 fucking hundreds, and that sort of shit wasn't a thing. Like, if someone's trying to get in your house, it's because they should be in your house, you know? So it's weird. It's a weird, a bit of a situation. I don't know. Who knows me? You know, maybe Andrew had a little bit of a conspiracy theory going on with the family. You know, he's just like, I got all this money and people be trying to hate on me. And I mean,
yeah, because like we said, he had worked himself up from nothing. So maybe he was just very protective
and smart.
And that's why they said he was like a penny pincher too. So he's like, no, I'm going to take my precautions. Or he really knew that there were like fucking assholes in town. Oh, remember, he don't like the Irish people in the neighborhood either. He probably don't trust their gypsy asses. So.
That's what I forgot about that.
That's a joke.
No, but that's what it was.
I'm Irish.
I forgot about that, and that's probably what it was. And I was thinking, you know, he's got a bunch of ladies in the house. Maybe he just wants them to be safe. Bitches, lock the fucking door. You know, and not a lot of people back then actually had that sense to say lock the fucking door, but he did. Unfortunately, the demons were actually in his house.
Well, I mean, there's somebody lurking around. Oh, I had never heard that. Yeah. I wonder why they don't know more about this. I mean, I know that people had thought that it could have just been a rando or whatever, but which is not far-fetched with the other stories out there. I guess there were. When was this? What year was this?
1892.
Okay, so this is before like places like Villisca or when
shortly before.
There were a lot of other axe murderers, not a lot, but there were a few other axe murderers in that kind of Midwest, out as far as like Colorado, that were axe murderers that were real random too, but they were like near the train station or whatever. And this was like
during the day,
this house doesn't really. This house doesn't necessarily fit that kind of profile, but I mean, I'm saying there could be a random axe murderer, I guess. But the fact that they didn't kill Bridget or Lizzie, I'm just renamed her.
Hey, she did that later on, so mine as well.
That's right. You know, the fact that they didn't kill them, it's like, but what was the purpose? I mean, nothing was even taken from the house,
nothing,
right?
Which is strange.
So they only hated Mr. and Mrs. Borden, no one else. That seems. And then I guess they'd say, well, Lizzie was out in the barn. They didn't see her or whatever. And they're not going to hurt Bridget, like, because she's not doing anything to hurt anybody. She's not the rich person.
And it seems as though they hated Abby more, even though they hated Andrew also. Just because when the strikes were being given to Abby, she got 19. She got 8 more than Andrew did. You know, there was more of an intense kind of a hatred towards that woman than there was towards Andrew, even though Andrew still got murdered, he still got fucked up, just less blows. They stopped, you know, they stopped. They were like, 11's enough. I can't believe I just said that.
It seems
11's enough.
Like a person out of their mind has to be committing this murder. Like, this is not, nothing was taken, so this is not somebody just trying to rob them, because they would have just knocked them a couple times, you know, to make sure that the job was done, and then got their stuff and got out of there. And I think anybody that just kind of, somebody had to really fucking hate these people, basically. Or they're really insane, like those other axe murderers that we read about and stuff, because they were multiple blows as well and stuff.
I think, I think if Lizzie had her wits about her, she would have been smarter. She would have made it staged to appear to have been a robbery and stolen something, you know, gotten rid of it. I've seen forensic files where, I mean, eventually it doesn't work out for them, but they didn't have forensic files back then. You know, forensics back then was, let's show this skull to the entire courtroom and see how they got their hands all up in his eye sockets and stuff. They're just like, here you go. Here it is. But she could have at least made it look to be like a burglary that had gone terribly wrong. And we wouldn't even be talking about this. This would have been lost in just a bad burglary incident. It probably would have been pinned on one of the unfortunate Irish immigrants into the neighborhood.
Yeah, like the next guy arrested for robbing a house or something like that. That they would have just blamed it on him. Yeah, no, she's not very bright. If it indeed was her.
Right.
But
if indeed what it was.
Well, do you so they let her off?
So June 19th, Lizzie was found not guilty of murdering Andrew and Abby. She and her sister Emma, who inherited their father's estate, bought a house in the fashionable part of Fall River, which is literally like right up the road. I mean, we've been to Fall River. We've seen the entire thing.
It's really
small.
Yeah.
The sisters lived peacefully until 1904 when Lizzie Borden, who now called herself Lizbeth, met an actress named Nance O'Neill. And the pair formed a strong bond. Some speculate that they were lovers. And an unapproving sister, Emma, moved out of the house. She moved out of the house 2 years later. Lizzie Borden lived out the rest of her days in a relatively quiet and peaceful, I guess, lifestyle, dying in 1927 at the age of 67, and obviously taking whatever secret she had about the murders to her grave. In 2012, journals kept by Lizzie's lawyer, his name was Andrew Jackson Jennings. That's such a cool last name. I love it. They were obtained by Fall River Historical Society, which is right up the street from the house. Journals revealed Jennings' direct observations of his client, who history remembers as being a cold-blooded, callous murderer. Jennings also saw a sensitive side to Lizzie. He saw a woman who was grieving for her loss. The notebooks did not, however, bring the public any closure to knowing who actually killed the Bordens. So now I have speculations, all of the theories there are that surround who done it.
Yeah, because the cops just like, well,
yes.
It wasn't Lizzie. Well, we're done. Case
that's
closed.
You're exactly right. I think I have that in here.
Because they had looked into the uncle.
Yep. Okay, so
John.
Where do I have him? Uncle John Morse. He rarely met with the family after his sister died. So his sister was Emma and Lizzie's mother, and their actual mother. He just so happened to come and stay the night before the murders. And some say that there was arguments over some kind of a disagreement in property. So Andrew, being a wealthy man, had bought a bunch of property for family members of his new wife. Right? So it sounds like some family gossipy bullshit. You know, look, Andrew's remarried. He's got to make sure that his new family's taken care of, and he's doing what he can with his daughters. I don't know if John showed up and he's like, look, you got these two girls, buy them a fucking house. And Andrew's like, those spoiled ass bitches, they ain't getting shit. I don't know how the conversation went, but that's...
Yeah, because he also could have been just the protective dad. He locks the doors and stuff in late 1800s. I mean, he could just be like, no, they will be in danger if they're out on their own. And I don't know what kind of trouble they'll get into. Lizzie's always trying to buy poison. I mean, like...
I know it. There's also, there was a thing that I read. A lot of people had said that she was stealing things. And I don't know if that bled over into one of the movies about Lizzie Borden, but she apparently was not a kleptomaniac, as some people had tried to perceive her as. I know what happened, because they said that Andrew was so cheap that she had to start stealing things in order to get them. From everything that I've read, that is entirely not true.
Because it's so funny that you say this stuff, though, because I only know, well, I mean, like everybody knows a little bit here and there of the story and has read about it, but like that tour that they take you on through the house, they give it to you when you stay there for the night. They still do a tour, and guy, it was long.
Ass tour.
He's very detailed,
loves his shit.
And so you think you're getting all this inside information, and you're like, wow. But it's apparently all the sensationalized stories, because now you're like, nope, they weren't eating old fish. Nope, she wasn't stealing stuff. Because he even goes into details about how the dad had to put a lock on the door to their little office.
He did actually have a lock on his own bedroom door.
But that could have been because he might have kept money in there. So like to keep it from the neighborhood, not necessarily from Lizzie. Or whatever.
I mean, you know how kids are. You got a couple, I got one. If you got money laying down, like my kid's gonna be like, nobody's looking, so this must be mine. This must be my money.
I lose like coins and like single dollar bills that way. Yeah. And if he's a tightwad, I guess he's like, she fucking stole my pocket change again. No, but he owns his own business. He might have kept all his finances there and was just locking that up too, or whatever.
Right. So that was Uncle John Morse. One of the other. Okay, so let me go down the stairs.
Oh, but he had an airtight alibi, right? Because he rode a bus or a train somewhere, and even those people testified that he was there during that time. Right?
I thought he met up with Emma because Emma was in a connecting town that at the time was it was far, far away. Of course, it's really not that far away, but they didn't have a bridge back then, so it took her a while to get back. And from what I understood, he had already left to go and meet up with her. Yeah.
So, like, where he could have maybe killed Mrs. Borden, he definitely didn't kill Mr. Borden because he wouldn't have been back in time. And I don't think they thought that the timelines matched up for either one, but just if they were wrong about what time he left. But I think he left pretty early. Like I said, now I'm questioning everything the tour guide told us. They make it sound like the people on the train or bus or whatever, I'm assuming train, were like, yeah, we saw this guy. But the tour guide likes to make it sound like it's still questionable. Like maybe he set the train guys up to cover for him.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. I remember him being all very conspiracy theory. Like,
yeah, because I remember us talking about it later. Like, oh, it could have totally been him. And, you know, because like he wasn't in the house. So if he had gotten bloody from killing someone, it's not like the police questioned him immediately afterwards. Like Lizzie, like she's there, you know, but they got to go get him because he's supposedly in another town where he could have disposed of his clothes and cleaned up, had plenty of time. Not to mention he's a grown ass man. Like, so wielding an axe.
Yeah, exactly.
That many times into somebody's skull and stuff. And he was super, they claim, you really don't know, but he was like trying to get his nieces what he thought they deserved and stuff like that. That's a story.
It is.
That seems plausible, but you don't really know, like their personal business or conversations.
And I was on board with the Uncle John Morse being the killer because his timing sure is coincidental to have just appeared the night before. But looking back again to my crime of passion theory, why would he put that many more blows into Andrew's wife? It seems like if he was pissed off at Andrew, that's the only man he would have attacked. Maybe he would have killed her, but maybe he would have cut her enough to where she was dead. I don't understand why, if it was him, he would have gone after her that much harder than he would have gone after Andrew. It seems like it would have been reversed.
I agree with that. Like, even though he would be upset, he seems like a reasonable man that would have planned this out. So why bash her head in that much? Like, it couldn't have got rid of any more evidence. You know what I mean? Like how sometimes they might kind of dismember people because they're trying to make it harder to figure out how they died or whatever. That's not the case. It's a fucking axe to the head. If it's 3 times to 19 times, it's all the same. So, like, why would he have done it even to Andrew? Like, I guess he would be pissy at Andrew. But, like,
if the conversation was, Andrew, how come you're not providing for your family the way that you're providing for Abby's family? It still seems to me that his conflict is with Andrew and not so much with Abby.
But if he only killed Andrew, Abby would get everything. So he's got to kill Abby too. Huh. If anything, Abby's the only one he's really got to kill, and then they could just wait until Andrew
from poisoning, because clearly Lizzie's going to do it eventually.
Lizzie, she's trying really hard. But again, I really think that if Lizzie and Emma were like, Uncle John, you know, Daddy's not giving us what he needs, or like, he's giving all his money away to Abby's brother, you know, and so John's like, honeys, we're going to take care of this. Right. I just feel like he would have came in more calculated. And some things still seem pretty sloppy. Yeah. Like, I just don't think he would have done it that way. I don't know. I mean, if him and I would assume it doesn't matter because Lizzie would be guilty either way. I don't think that John would have acted on his own. I think that he would have been helping Lizzie and Emma, and they were all conspiring to do this together. And I don't think that Bridget didn't know what was going on or know a little bit like that it had happened. And she got paid the fuck off.
Yeah.
or something. I don't think she had anything to do with it, unless you just don't know that her Mr. and Mrs. Borden were treating her like dog shit, you know?
Okay, well, since we're on the subject of Bridget, and I have something that I want to say about it, I'm going to jump to her. So from Uncle John, who I love in this entire story, I love that he's there.
Him as the
I just love that it's such a, like, yeah, like, hi guys, I'm just here to spend the night.
And then you're murdered the next day.
And they're like, yeah, it totally wasn't him, clearly. Like, what? It's funny to me how I see him, like, kind of skipping in his step, like, walking down the street, like, got away with that shit, you know, the whole thing.
What if he just put it in Lizzie's head,
I mean,
too? He's like, Lizzie, you don't need poison. Just fucking bash their brains in. And they'll never suspect that it's you, your little petite, silly self. I mean,
it's possible that he did, but I think that he knew on some level, and some roundabout way, those two know exactly what the fuck happened. So even though the story's like, Lizzie's the only one that knows and took that shit to her grave, I think Bridget knew too. But I think it's between those three. I don't necessarily feel like Emma really knew. I feel like in the end, she's like, fuck, Mom and Dad, they're gone. I mean, Mrs. Borden, I can't say Mom in front of Lizzie because shit.
Do you think that Emma came back and she's like, Lizzie, what the fuck have you done? I mean, like, she had to have, she knows her sister. If we suspect Lizzie, then she definitely was like, oh yeah, I could totally see Lizzie doing this. I'm just going to pretend like I
think Emma is the family bystander who has to stick by their family member because they weren't there, they didn't witness it, and they love their family member. Like it's like a one of those. It's kind of like the staircase situation where, and you haven't seen it, so I understand that you can't relate. But he's got a couple of daughters there who are diehard. Totally with him the entire way. They know in their hearts that he did nothing. And I feel like Emma was this sort of same situation until all the way through and through until Lizzie like got her actress girlfriend. Then Emma was like, okay.
You know, I guess Lizzie is just scandalous,
it's just Lizzie.
Period. Like that actress was probably not one to associate herself with her. Damn, I love her, but fuck, I'm pretty sure she killed
yeah, right.
people.
I'm pretty sure it's the same situation.
Maybe she was into it. Who knows?
So why I want to touch on Bridget, there's a couple of things that Bridget did in her story. This is the speculation, and I don't agree with this, but perhaps in rage at being ordered to clean windows on a hot day, the day of the murders, it was apparently unusually hot. She was, as we know, very sick from some mysterious illness that struck the entire household. So they say that Bridget said that on her particular instance that she was enraged and she murdered gave them. At the trial.
She just like was
presented in a way that would protect Lizzie. I don't buy that.
But why did people think that she had a relationship? Is that another one of those just trying to sex it up? Like,
no, that
Lizzie murdered people naked, then Lizzie must have been sleeping with the maid too.
Okay, I'll come back to my initial Lizzie theory. I'll go right to number 2. Another theory suggests Lizzie committed the murders after being caught in a sexual act with Bridget. Speculation is that Abby caught Lizzie and Bridget together and had reacted with horror and disgust. And Lizzie then killed Abby with a candlestick. And when Andrew returned, she apparently confessed to him, but killed him in a rage with a hatchet when he reacted exactly as Abby had. Further speculation is that Bridget disposed of the hatchet. Man, I can't talk suddenly.
That's what they call them after their murder weapon. I got it.
Hatchet. Bridget was the one to actually dispose of the hatchet somewhere afterwards. In her later years, Lizzie was rumored to be a lesbian, but there was no such speculation about Bridget. She found other employment after the murders and later married. Bridget allegedly gave a deathbed confession to her sister, stating that she had changed her testimony on the stand in order to protect Lizzie. So
I think that just means that she cared for Lizzie. I don't think it means that she has to be like, you know, ladies stick together.
Sure.
And she knew that they were, especially of the theory that you were about to get into, and I keep cutting you off, but I had never heard why does Lizzie and Bridget have to have a romantic relationship to be in on something together? So I wanted to know where you had kind of heard that. I always kind of thought that, or I get the impression that the maid knew more than she definitely let on, and that she was trying to protect Lizzie, or they were in on it together, or if she got paid off, so she doesn't fucking care. She just was, because she moved way. She did. After that, when she got married, got her money and fucking ran before anything could change. So I would have never put them, they're just people trying to sex sells, I think, trying to put that story in there. I agree. But who knows? And then maybe what you were about to get into, where people accuse Mr. Borden of abusing his daughter. Right. Or daughter. And maybe she could have known about that, and she hated him too, for that, and that's why she was protective of Lizzie or whatever. I mean, it is possible. We don't know. It is right. It's all hearsay. I mean, at this point, you're absolutely right. The fact of whether Lizzie had an actual relationship with Bridget or not, it doesn't fucking matter. They could have been BFF, or they could have had a relationship. Who cares? To me, it doesn't point blame in one direction over the other. You know what I'm saying? They're all theories. They're all possible reasons why Lizzie and or Bridget would have been in on it together. Yeah, because they were definitely, that Bridget had to have known something. She was not blindly in that house, not hearing people anything. Being murdered. And I don't care if you're outside either. We heard those fucking seagulls. Where were they? Right, exactly. You can hear somebody screaming for their life, or a thud inside a house, because Mrs. Borden had to fall to the ground, face fucking first. So Bridget testified that she could hear the side door, opening and shutting from her room in the attic. Yeah, you could hear that. You knew what was going on. You knew whether somebody was in that house, too, whether Lizzie was out in that barn that whole time or not. Right. But so the theory of the being molested, that just comes from, of course, there was no fucking record of that. Right. And Lizzie never said that herself or told anyone that. No. So that just comes from psychics. Yes, going into the house. You're absolutely right. Yep, that's the psychic's theory, that Andrew was, molesting Lizzie. That's well after the fact. Everyone's going to come up with a story, and who knows, in 20 years from now, somebody else is going to come up with another outrageous story. Whether it happened or not, we can't say. It was never documented. Lizzie never said it. The only thing that she said was that, Dad didn't give me enough money to buy 40 dresses a month. It seemed like that was her only problem, not the fact that he was, putting his hands all over her. It didn't seem like that at all. Yeah, and then there's movies out there, right? I've not watched them because they're probably just disgusting. Right. But, didn't Christina Ricci just did one that makes it look like, from the snippets of that I've seen, or trailers or whatever, that Lizzie was basically down for this relationship with her dad. I don't know. Yeah, right. Which is just, weird. What are we watching? Right, exactly. I didn't know. So, yeah, and then finally, there is a William Borden, whom is Andrew's illegitimate son, which speculators here say that he may have tried and failed to extort money out of his father. I guess they're grasping at straws at this point, because why not? There's nobody's been proven to have killed these people, and after Lizzie was acquitted, they're like, I got nothing. You got something? No, we give up. We give up. That's it. No. So many now claim that Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast is haunted by the spirits of Andrew and Abby, even though it's commonly thought that both Lizzie and Emma's spirits reside there as well. But before I move on about our experiences from our investigation, there was yet another tragic event that took place well before the murders of Lizzie's parents, and I feel are worth mentioning due to their unique connection. Aside from the well-known double murder, did you hear my crickets? I did. I gotta turn the volume down on my cell phone. You should spray your house or something if you've got crickets in there. No. That's your text message sound. Yeah, it was, but it wasn't a text message. I got something else. I guess people are liking Instagram these days. So, good job. Thanks, guys. I know, right? Thank you.
So there were 3 more brutal and horrific deaths that happened just one door down from the Lizzie Borden house. The murderer was a woman that was also she also had the same surname, Borden. The woman was none other than Lizzie's great aunt, Eliza Darling Borden. Lizzie's father, Andrew, had an uncle named Lodwick Borden, another badass name. In 1848, Lodwick lived next door to the house that is now the famous Lizzie Borden house. He occupied the residence with his second wife, whom also had a cool name, Eliza Darling, and their 3 children, Maria, who was the eldest, Eliza Ann, age 2, and an infant named Holder. Both houses stood side by side on 2nd Street. Eliza Darling was an unhappy woman. Giving birth to 3 children in a row, she unfortunately had severe postpartum depression. Eliza grew increasingly more troubled each day until one afternoon she took her 3 children down into the cellar and dumped them into a cistern. Eliza apparently stepped behind the chimney and with Lodwick's straight razor slit her own throat and bled to death as her children cried and drowned. When they were finally discovered, all but the eldest child, Maria, was dead. Lodwick later went on to marry twice more, and Maria married later on in life. She remained in the house after the murders. And just as a side note, Maria was Andrew Borden's first cousin. The house was later sold to Dr. Michael F. Kelly, who lived there during the time of Lizzie Borden murders. The doctor's wife, Caroline, was the last person to actually see Andrew alive on August 4th, 1892, as she walked off to the dentist. It's speculated that the children who drowned in the cellar next door also haunt the Lizzie Borden B&B. Reports from many investigators claim feeling their presence in the attic bedroom. Now, I want to talk about our personal experiences in the house. And for anyone who's listening, if you've never been inside the house itself, it's kind of like it's like stepping back in time, like the moment you walk in there. They've completely remodeled the house, to look as if it did when the Borden family lived there. And that is just, it's cool. It's also very creepy. The furniture is just like we were talking about earlier. Is there a place on Amazon where it's okay, I only want to buy the furniture that looks just like this picture? How do they do that?
How do you do it? That took a lot of fucking antique shopping on that woman's part that owns it, or who. I'm assuming she's the original owner, but because the carpet, because she's got pictures of the murders, of course, but I think she just has general pictures of the home that they must have taken. I don't know, my voice got cracked. Sorry. I just became a man. Where the carpet and the positioning of the furniture and then the type of furniture, it all kind of matches up. So she did a really awesome job on that. It's a really cool place to stay, just if you want to see, you want to sleep in a living museum, basically.
Yeah.
And then if you're down with some ghosts, then it's a good place for that as well. So
that's a good point.
Except for there is 2 bedrooms upstairs that they said was attic space, and one we never even got to see because the guests that were staying there were shut down. They were not involving themselves with anybody, which is weird. But the other bedroom we were in, nobody was staying there, and they say that that's where the kids are. I think that when Ghost Adventures went there, that's where it's the room that a drawer opened up.
It is
on its own or something like that too.
It is.
That was supposed to be just attic space. It wasn't an actual bedroom, but
that was one of my favorite areas of the entire house, because we had a lot of activity in there. Yes, that was sort of like a point of interest when we first got there because of the Ghost Adventures show and the drawer opening up on its own. But that was the room where we got I got a really strange image that I caught with my camera that I posted on Instagram. All of my pictures around that one picture, there's not a thing there. But then in one image, I have a completely black mass of a human shape form, which is bizarre. There's no lights behind me. There's no lights in front of me. It's just a very strange picture. And aside from that, we got whispers. We just have childlike whispers. One whisper that clearly said the name Lizbeth, which is ironic considering Lizzie went by that name after the trials of her parents being murdered.
Yeah.
We got an EVP saying, "Don't go," as we're exiting the room.
Yeah, we were trying to leave. that was as much as the story of the murders and stuff are interesting, and they're definitely, Mr. Borden was, Mrs. and Mr. I wanted to interact with all of it, but the story of the children, and if the children are there, they say that there's reports that they'll hear giggles and just like, I always feel for the child spirits that are left behind, and so I'm always attracted to try to communicate with them, because you just want to make sure that they're like okay, and if they need something, I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, like, we heard little snippets, but they didn't necessarily, I don't know if they were intelligent, or if I don't know if they are intelligent, is what I should say. If they're intelligent spirits, or if they're just residual, and that's why you get like the kind of just a giggle here and there, or a random voice or singing or something like that. Because remember, when there's some singing or something outside of the maid's room, and we're just talking, and and there was something that was fairly loud, and there was no one else awake in the building. But I don't know if we got we did not get any intelligent experience necessarily with the children's spirits there.
Well, there was one
somebody
EVP.
Definitely did seem to be listening to us.
That's true. It seemed like that. It seemed like in one of the EVPs that we got, one of them, somebody in that room was hinting at a book that they wanted you to read them. You were asking what book should I read? And you kind of went through the list, and you chose a book that I don't think was the same book that they were asking you for. But in the EVP, it sounded like they were asking you to read a book about the zoo or something like that. So it seemed like at that point, they were trying to interact with you. But for whatever reason, that room was very active in a positive way. It didn't seem like it was a dark or a sad, oppressive kind of a feeling. It seemed like it was a good interaction, I guess, in that room.
Yeah, I just mean that I felt like, well, I guess I don't know what I was saying, but I meant, like, I didn't know if we scared them. Like, it takes probably a lot for them to get comfortable with you.
Right.
But we did get some interaction there. We did. And definitely that top floor was interesting. That and Mr. Borden's room, and then the whole Ouija board thing. But
right. So you had a very severe reaction in Andrew's room, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that or not. So I was gonna.
No, most definitely. So like the vibe on the third floor with the adorable little children and trying to get them to talk to us and be comfortable with us, and then we hang out in Maggie's room forever. Yeah. And then that's when we were getting like I think we got a bunch of EVPs then, but they all sounded like they were right out in the hallway type things. Yeah. Not to say that they, if they're coming from another dimension or whatever, I guess they would sound kind of distant. So that whole area was really cool, but it was also very kind of it felt like you weren't alone, but it didn't feel like threatening at all.
You're exactly right. It was comforting. I agree.
It was just like comforting, like, hey, I feel like something's here, but it doesn't feel bad to me or nothing. It feels like we're just all in this together type thing. Let's hang out together. That sounds weird.
No, but that's exactly how it felt. You're right. Yeah.
But then you go just one floor down so the house is set up weird for people that have never been there. The main entrance, the main parlor, and there's another parlor and a dining room and a kitchen all on the first floor. You go up the first formal set of stairs, you can only get to 3 bedrooms. Right. Technically only 2 bedrooms. The one that Mrs. Borden was murdered in, and then the room that they say was Lizzie's room, and then there's a bedroom off of Lizzie's bedroom with no hallway in between it. So right. I'm assuming if you're going to rent that, you're going to rent it with some friends, not having these strangers walk through your room. Yeah, right. But they say that's where Emma slept. And then there's a door that connects to another room, but it's like locked all the time. Yeah. So you have to go up the kitchen stairs, the back stairs, to get to where Mrs. Borden and Mr. and Mrs. Borden's room was, with also another little room off of that, which was like their office or whatever. And then the third floor, you got to go up those kitchen steps to get to the third floor. So when we came down and then we went into Mr. and Mrs. Borden's room, we sat down and we're just kind of filling out the room, and just a weird note, are like, how could you? The house next door where those kids were murdered, remember we were looking out the window and there was a light on in a bedroom still. And this is like 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. They were like Dora the Explorer, like curtains up or something. This was like a kid's room.
It's creepy.
That had a light on. Okay, maybe it's a nightlight. Maybe they don't sleep with the light. I wouldn't in that fucking house either. But like, can you imagine? Can you imagine that there's a kid living in that house? God. I want to go talk to that kid.
Yeah, right.
What do you see? Do you have some friends here that hang out with you and then they can never leave the house?
Oh my God.
What's that like?
No kidding.
So I remember us kind of talking about that, and then we settled in, and I sat down on the bed. We were asking questions. I don't know. I don't remember exactly for like how long, but then we were like, okay, let's spice this shit up, and try to get some kind of interaction because nothing's really happening. We're asking you to like move this, and we're fucking with this, trying to make you like work with us here. I don't really want to just go off of speculation and be like really disrespectful, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you. And before I could even get the fucking words out, I was going to bring up that Mr. Borden, what do you think? I mean, like, what's your reaction? I'm sure you're fucking pissed about these people accusing you of sexually abusing your daughter. But before I could even get the fucking words out, I got this horrible, sick feeling in my stomach where I thought it was about to just barf all over the place. And I'm not like that at all. I know nobody knows me on this podcast but you. So like to take my word for it is kind of hard. But like I got an iron stomach. I mean like even down in a whole bunch of drinks, I'm going to try my hardest not to puke them back up. I hate that. Oh, it's such an awful feeling, man. So I'm one that like, it's not that easy to make me sick of my stomach like that. And I don't have a really sensitive stomach. But all of a sudden, it was like I couldn't say another word.
Right.
If I just opened my mouth, I felt like I was going to throw up everywhere. And so I was like, I remember telling you, like, I feel really sick. Like, I can't even finish what I'm saying. Like, you were like, do you want to change the subject or anything like that? And I remember you asked me, how's your kids doing?
Right.
You want to, and I was like, let's not. I just felt this really bad feeling.
Yeah.
And the way I was sick so suddenly, I was like, nope, let's not talk about personal stuff because this shit's going to go. I don't want this shit going home with me.
Yeah, that was a really, really weird moment. You're usually down for changing the subject so that things, can shift. But you knew something right then and there, and that was the wrong way to go with it. That was weird.
It wasn't. It felt 100% wrong.
Yeah.
And like I just had to sit and wait for a while, like for my stomach to kind of settle down, and then it just like it lifted, and I was fine. Yeah. And I made my apologies. I was like, I wasn't even going to accuse you of anything.
Right, exactly.
No, I was just asking a fucking question. I know that's still offensive.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what am I even asking? Like, no shit, he doesn't want to hear about that or anything.
Right,
but like, there had been reports that his spirit made other women ill, sick, like physically sick in that room.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what I was getting at then. I mean, I think I was just trying to ask him, like, I know this pisses you off, but like, why are you like hurting other people because of it?
Yeah.
Because he's a monster, because that shit didn't feel right at all.
Right. It's a strange occurrence because of everything that happened and because of all of the theories surrounding his death. If he didn't want to answer that question, A, is it because, look, this is bullshit, I'm tired of hearing this, or is it B?
Because he's guilty as fuck.
Because he's guilty as fuck. Yeah.
We're not psychics, we're not mediums, whatever, those are maybe the same thing, I don't know. I mean, we definitely had sensitivities to know, like, kind of be alert when we can feel something's in the room and things like that, but that doesn't mean anything. And that's what I love about houses like this too. So you go into where there's this unsolved mystery, and then we got an EVP that I know a lot of people would question, and it's not crystal clear or anything, but we were talking about like who did it or whatever, and we got an EVP that basically says like Lizzie did that shit.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. That's not how it said it, but I mean, like, that is so cool that just with your recorder and enough guts, you can go into a house and try to solve a murder. Is it going to hold up in court? No, but it's kind of fucking cool to walk away with and be like, oh, I know who did that. It was Lizzie. Oh, how do you know that? Oh, well, Mr. Borden's ghost told me. I mean, like, duh. Just go there and ask him.
You know, if there was more supporting evidence, I mean, stranger things have happened. I mean, there was a case where a woman was murdered by her husband, though all signs pointed to her falling down the stairs and dying. And she appeared to her mother in a dream. So her mother says, she appeared to her every night in the dream, basically unable to speak, unable to explain what had happened, but kept like pointing at her throat. So her mother, you know, as you know, the story goes, she had her body exhumed and they could tell that she was strangled to death. And her husband had murdered her. So, I mean, you know, stranger things have happened. I mean,
I don't know if these days with the way, you know, with science and all that, will they be like, that's not going to hold up in court. But it is fun. And that was in that room that I got that. I'm pretty sure that was in that room that I got that EVP that basically it said like that. I'd have to look it up on YouTube on our page and stuff or at our website to remember exactly what it was, but I was like, oh, I just solved the fucking murder here. Like, I think Mr. Borden just told me that like,
Lizzie did it. She did it. That was the EVP. That's what we got.
But why? You know, you also, well, whatever. That's what I was trying to get at. Like, can you, if you weren't molesting your daughters, can you tell it, or your daughter, can you tell us why you think she might have done it? Like, defend yourself. Tell us what do you think happened.
Right.
Or why she would have came after you. But he wouldn't even let me get the words out. And I truly believe that it was him. It wasn't me. I don't get sick like that. And then I was fine, like shortly after. It's not like I did anything. I didn't go drink some Alka-Seltzer or something like that.
No, she did not. You sat right there until it passed. Yeah, it lifted.
And then it was just gone. And we were fine the rest of the night.
Yeah. We should have started talking shit about him like right away again. We're all better. Okie dokie. Back to what we were saying.
I think that would have been interesting to see if it would have happened again. But man, I really did not get a good vibe, and I did not want to chance that shit again. I mean, I was scared for a minute there.
It was weird. You were the one that was about to bring it up. You had it on the tip of your tongue, and you were just about to say it. And you were, for the most part, in that room, you were the one leading the questions. So if anyone was going to, I guess, bring it up, it was going to be you at that time. So, you know, maybe you had gotten...
I'm typically the fucking asshole that would do that kind of shit.
No, but like maybe you got somebody's attention. They were there, just kind of waiting to see, and then all of a sudden they could tell that you're like, this shit ain't happening. I'm ready for something to happen. Let's ask the hard questions.
Yeah. Well, I think I forewarned him too. I was like, okay, didn't want to have to go here, but if you're not going to talk to us, because at the time it didn't seem like anything was going on or anybody was there with us, but quickly he made his presence known. It felt like to me.
Very quickly, everything had changed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just was gone after that. We roamed around the house some more. We went down to the lower level and hung out in the dining room, I guess, after that. And
we did.
Kitchen and living room again. And then went back to our room, and it was like the house was... And I don't know if maybe after I explained to myself, like, hey, I don't really necessarily believe that, or I'm not going to, what I was saying about we're not psychics. So I'm sure whatever psychics that have went in there, I'm not trying to disregard their talent or, say that they're not credible or whatever, because just like I'm telling you, I had this experience and I feel like I know what it was. I wouldn't want to question some psychic and what they might have read off of the situation too.
Sure.
But I'm not going to go around and accuse a man of something that I don't know for a fact myself. And I just, after I had kind of regained control of my own body, I explained that to him. Like, I wasn't trying to accuse you of anything, and I know that's really rude. I was just going to give you a chance to tell your story. Sorry if I wasn't going about it the right way. And I think because I was apologetic, he was like, "Oh, fine, yeah, whatever."
Okay, fine. Then I'll just go back to bed or whatever.
For the rest of the night,
right?
Like, oh, I thought you were going to be a total one of those fucking dickheads, but maybe I just caught an energy of like when they were sick.
Right.
You know?
Oh, wow. Ooh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Like for a second there, I experienced what one of them would have experienced in that room. And
wow, yeah, maybe. No, I didn't even think about that. If it's not a intelligent spirit and it's not actually reacting to you, because in our minds it was intelligent. It was predicting what you were going to just talk about, and it stopped you by making you feel ill. But if it hadn't been, and it was just a reoccurring memory of what had happened in, like I said, a replay, that would make a lot of sense. And that's so funny because I didn't even think about that. They were experiencing these flu-like symptoms throughout the house.
Yeah.
So you could have just been experiencing that.
Well, it did feel very much like an attack on me,
Yeah.
but I think so I don't believe that was the case, but sometimes I think about how the energy kind of comes and goes. And I think that we did get some EPPs from the Borden house that were kind of, well, you always do kind of get them that are completely unrelated about what you're talking about, but they seem like fairly like full sentences. Like, who are you talking to? We weren't talking about that.
Right. And sometimes you get like men's voices, and there's clearly no men in our group, and most of the times there's no men near us, and when you get that deep man's voice, it's like, what the hell, where did that come from?
That surely wasn't us. So but I do think that there was some, I felt like they knew that we were there. And well, I don't know when you want to talk about the Ouija board.
I was about to go right into it, as a matter of fact.
I mean, they definitely let us know they were there, but they were also like, fuck you, we don't want to talk to you.
When we were on tour, first of all, like Wendy said earlier, they gave us the this guy who was just, I mean, you could tell, like, he loves this shit. He eats it up.
Deluxe fucking tour.
It was the deluxe tour. So he pulls out this Parker Brothers Ouija board, and it's one of the newer ones. It's got the glow-in-the-dark planchette, and he's like, hey, guys, if you want to get a little zippy tonight, there's this Ouija board that you all can play with. And then he wants to let you know that they also have another Ouija board, and it's like hand-carved wooden, like with a wooden planchette, and he's like, it's been stolen from the property, and every time it's been stolen, it's been returned. And like one time it came back with a note, sorry, I'm really, really sorry I took this, like one of those kind of notes. Yeah.
Like
apologetic.
Make it like, I hope this makes it stop or something like that. And I think that this board was like made the year the murders happened or something.
It was. Yeah. It's from like the 1890s. It was from the year that they were murdered. So the group that we were there with was a mixed bag. We had kids. I say kids. They were 20. But they're kids to me. They had, there were older ladies, like in their 60s, and then they had some like 40-year-olds, and then a couple that were our age, that were there. So it's hard to get a gauge on what people are interested in actually doing, but everybody's there because of the murders. So when you pull out the Ouija board, I mean, that's a whole nother level of conversation. Like, yes, everyone's down. They know the place should probably be haunted, and they know about the murders. But when you pull out the Ouija boards, that's when people start drawing lines. So
some people did leave the room.
Yeah, they did. So, well, I was like, okay, we'll I'm playing with the Ouija board. I have no problems with this.
Did you bring it up, or did someone else bring it up? And we were like, yeah, we're okay with that. Or was it you that was like, y'all want to pull that out?
In my memory, it was me, because I could not wait to get my hands on it, and I didn't want to start with the easy one, but because everyone was there, I went ahead and started with the easy one. So we went with the glow in the dark planchette, the one that was like the party board kind of, and I asked before we even got started if everyone in the room was cool with us doing this, because if they were not, then I wasn't going to do it. And like the people were like, yeah, I'm not really on board. And I'm like, no, I want to make sure that you are okay with this. I am not going to be responsible for, and I didn't say that, but I don't want to be feeling responsible for anybody having like a spirit type of possession and then blaming me because I'm the one that brought out the Ouija board. If anybody should have that kind of thing happening, it's going to be me, because I'm bringing it on myself. But
yeah, we don't want to be disrespectful either.
I don't.
So If it was going to offend someone, I mean, the owners of the house allow it, and it was there. It's theirs. But if everybody was okay with it. Some people didn't want to stay in the room for it. They were like, you can do what you want, but I'm going to go over here.
So some people just spectated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I don't know what everyone's backstory is. I don't know what kind of medication these people are on either. So I want to feel the room out first, make sure everyone's cool. So you know what I'm saying? We turned off all the lights. We had candles lit, and we started with the, like I said, the Parker Brothers version first, and nothing happened. It was dead as dead could be, no pun intended, but nothing happened whatsoever. And we sat there
it was you and this probably doesn't help the story, but it was you and another person doing it. I wasn't doing it with you.
That's right. You were filming.
And it wasn't moving.
Right. I'm sure my energy plays into it too.
The next time around it was the two of us, then people can think that we were conspiring or something. But you have to understand, we want to believe or know as much as anyone else. We're not going to fake shit.
I'm not going to push that shit around because I absolutely want it to do its own thing. If this is going to,
I want to see this fucking magic happen too. So I'm not fucking around to make a show for other people. I mean, I want to know the truth as well. Does this shit actually work?
Is there a reason that we should be afraid of this board that everyone seems to have a fear of? So, yeah. So the other one didn't work. But it's another one of those things. It doesn't always work on cue. If there's someone there that wants to talk to you, they have to be willing too. So the first board was a no-go, and I think some of the people in the room were a little relieved. But then I was like, I'm bringing out the big guns. Let's get the badass board then. And I think at that point somebody actually left the room. And she was like, yeah. The second one, we both sat down on the floor, knees folded, had the board in between us, and it was like somebody had put the fully juiced batteries into that board. Because then it was like it started moving. And I mean, I don't even remember it spelling anything out, but it was moving, We were asking questions and it was moving, and I don't know, Wendy. What about 3 minutes, maybe tops? It was moving around, and then suddenly, the batteries completely drained, and that was it, right?
Well, so we're sitting there, and we've done a Ouija board together one other time with some other people. And it moved, but it made no sense to what it was saying. And that was the only time I've ever used one. And I don't read much into them. I know other people, you will probably get a whole bunch of passionate stories about how serious that shit is and stuff. But, I feel like if you've got your own protections in place, then you're good no matter what. You need to be respectful with what you're using.
Absolutely.
Know the power that it could potentially do, which, you open and close it or whatever correctly, and then you have the respect for it. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying I'm not going to be scared of just a board. I want to talk to ghosts all the time. It's got to be no different, you know what I mean, than a pendulum board, or than my ass just sitting there being like, come talk to me, whisper in my ear and tell me everything. So if I'm going to put myself out there, what's the difference between this board? So in my opinion.
Right. I'm with you.
But again, this is my only second experience with it. And it was like this thing was on a motor. I mean, we were sitting there and it just started moving, and we were like, is anybody here with us? And it went to no. And it was like, okay, well.
Yes, that's right. Because then we were like, no, it doesn't work that way. If you're going to tell us no, then you're here.
It's like, you're obviously answering because we know we're not moving this board. Complete trust between each other. Anyways, then we're like, okay. So you're here, obviously, but is it that you don't want to talk to us? Do you just not want to talk to us?
Right.
And it went to no again. It had moved off of it.
Right.
Or no, we restarted it or whatever. And then it just went right back down to no. And we were like, did we ask it a third time? Can we just make sure?
We did.
You don't.
Yeah.
Or were we like, fine. We'll be respectful. You're here. You're lying to us about being here, but you don't want to talk to us either. Great. Andrew, you are an asshole.
Oh, man. While you and I were downstairs with the entire group, and we were messing around with those Ouija boards. I had my audio recorder going up in the room that we're supposed to sleep in.
That we napped in.
And I got an EVP at the same time, and it said disgusting.
Yeah.
So
not down for us. But the third floor will love you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's good vibes up there. The maid and the kids, they're awesome.
They are.
The Borden family, bit of some dicks, man.
They're like not down for this shit at all.
They're like, leave me the fuck alone. They were conversational. We did get EVPs in other places. It's just sometimes I couldn't tell if they were talking to us or they were having their own goddamn conversation. We just happened to pick up.
Right.
But I remember that because I was recording, I had set my camera up when we were doing the Ouija board, and there was a candle in the back that was doing some weird flamey thing.
It was, yeah.
And because another girl had noted it, we didn't notice because we were watching the board, but like it wasn't doing that the first time, like when y'all had the Parker Brothers Ouija board out, and then it was just like going bananas when we asked certain things and stuff.
Yeah,
maybe it was just like, I don't like this board. Can we talk another way?
Yeah.
Like people that don't like to talk on the phone, but they're like cool with you texting them and stuff. So maybe it was like, I don't like spelling everything out. Can you let's just yes or no questions on the flames on the candle.
Right. This is it's sort of like my smoke sack. I'm making it. I'm puffing. You don't see the smoke because you turned off all the damn lights, but otherwise you'd see it.
We didn't catch on to that, so I'm sorry.
No,
Borden ghost.
I honestly, I love that bed and breakfast, and I feel like there is a lot of activity going on there, and I feel like I think that I'd like to spend more time. I feel like that place has a lot more to give.
Mm-hmm. We go back. We should get Mr. Borden's room.
Yeah, for sure.
And bring barf bags.
Barf bags. But another thing is we never even had the opportunity to investigate the basement because we were so enthralled with there's so many rooms in this house, let me just say, and there's so much mystery to what happened in the house overall that you're enthralled, you're inside the house. It's like, oh fuck, it's morning, we forgot the basement, and shit happened down there too, and we just never even made it. So
there is a lot of different spaces, and we really did have activity of some kind in every single room.
Yeah.
So, man, it's a cool one to stay at. I know it's very hyped up and everything like that, and they do, and maybe some people might think it's overdone, but man, if you could get on there, we even had like a full house, but the other people that were staying in the other rooms, well, no, it wasn't a full house because that other room was there was 2 rooms in the attic that were,
that's right,
or the
that
third
were
floor
open.
that were vacant. Everybody was really generous with like sharing their spaces. That's the only way we got into Mr. Borden's room, is that the guest that was staying there, she was down for it too. And so she let us in her room and hang out. And so it was a cool experience with the other guests there.
It was.
And just the whole house. I like that one. I would definitely do it again. I guess just every time we talk about it, I was like, God, that was so damn cool.
I know.
Let's go back there.
It really was. And it's like, also, like deep down inside, I want to say, well, we've been there before. Like, maybe we'll have warmed up a little bit to them. Maybe they will recognize us. Maybe they will want to talk to us more. Especially with places like the Lemp, where we spent a couple of days there. You feel like with everything that we saw there, or that we experienced there, that they would be like, oh, them again. They came back for more. You kind of want it to be like that. Yeah, hell yeah, we're here. Let's see what you got this time.
Yeah. We definitely should make a list, and that we've got to start doing some repeats, some revisits, because we also know where we had activity, so we can question. That's what I always think too. Like when I'm reviewing evidence, I'm like, fuck, I want to go back there.
Yes.
I got to ask this question again. Like I felt like we were getting somewhere, but I'm not a millionaire. So.
No, so that's why we do what we can. But yeah, definitely. Yeah. I do want to go back, especially now, because the house that Lizzie ended up purchasing after the trials that she ended up living out her days in, they have opened that one up for tours as well. Ooh. Very recent, like that happened this year. So I don't have anything to add as far as Is it haunted? I don't know. The fact that it's another piece of the history of the Bordens, I mean, that just makes it worth it. When we go to the grave site and we visit the Bordens where they're buried, and then we go and do the tour, then we stay there. Well, this is just another piece of that history, and I think that would be cool.
Trying to coat yourself with their kind of experiences and stuff like that, and just their energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely recommend that to all investigators. If you have the chance to kind of walk in their shoes, which everybody knows that, but like, you know, you don't always have to play dress up necessarily or pretend that you're like a person that you're not to fit in with the time period. But like, though those things are helpful too, or whatever, I guess, and we've gotten activity from that as well. Definitely take in these people's lives as much as you can and step into their shoes, like I said.
Yeah.
Because I think it does help connect you as much as you can when you don't have the ability to, you know, like we don't have necessarily, you do, not me though, have local spots that you can just keep revisiting. I mean, I can to like the birdcage and stuff like that, but you know what I mean. You're not there all the time. We don't have like the hookup to hang out in a haunted house all the time. So the little bit of the day that we get to spend there, we want to make the most of it.
Yeah,
so we usually visit a graveyard or just immerse ourselves in the town.
True. Now, they do have hotels and stuff on the Isles of Shoals, and apparently the entire island is haunted. So, you know, the next time you guys come, if you're okay with hanging out on an island that is haunted.
How many times do I have to tell you? All you have to do is tell me it's haunted.
It's haunted.
And I'm there.